Welcome back to Purrfect Takes. I'm your host, Stephen Patton, joined as always by my co host and dear friend, Jacob Acquire. And today we are going to talk about the state of the Carolina Panthers. Since David Tepper purchased the team back in 2018, the team has gone a glamorous 37-83, and our own Bryce Young has not won a ton of games. He is 1-15 on the road, 6-10 at home, and the woes we had on Sunday at New England, it's more of the same. I saw a Panthers Twitter account that I follow, and I felt the same way around halftime. But at 28-6, you see no life on your team, and the whole purpose of this past all season was to kind of like refill the cupboards so that when we had injuries, it wouldn't look like last year. And it just feels like deja vu all over again. Nothing has changed. This seems very systematic. Tell me it isn't, Jacob. That like on a Tuesday where I'm trying to find some hope for the week, tell me that this is not a systematic problem with the Carolina Panthers.
Well, here's some hope for you. You mentioned Tepper's record, or maybe you didn't, 37-83 since he bought it. It's not the worst in the league. The New York Jets are the worst, who we will be playing very, very soon in a couple weeks here. So I think that's my positive for you. I got nothing otherwise. The 6-10 home games, one of them was a win in Germany. So I guess we're undefeated. I think we are undefeated since Tepper bought the team because we beat the Buccaneers in London as well back in 2019. So there's some positivity for you. Maybe we should move the team overseas and share it between the British Isles there. But I don't know. I think it's very telling when in the post game presser, Dave Canales says we need to find out what kind of a team we are, who we are. Is that not what the offseason is for? To find out what kind of team you are, especially in a year two, and we continue to hear the same talking points. 42 unanswered points from New England. We scored the first touchdown. It was on the scripted drive or whatever, but we lose David Moore, a veteran receiver, on the very first play. I think it's a elbow sprain. It looked pretty bad on the field. So we were down to like three receivers and still scored on the opening drive. And then we stopped them 3-and-out on defense. So the defense does their job on their opening drive. So we have the ball again. We go all the way into New England territory. We're on like their 43-yard line or something. Um, and it's a 3rd and 10. There was like a T-Mac dropped one. I think there was a run that got stuffed as well. 3rd and 10. Dave Canales calls a draw play. If you're unfamiliar with what that is, it's you wait for about half a second, then give the ball to the running back to try and get some yards. On a 3rd and 10 in opponent's territory, he called that. And obviously it gets stuffed. By the way, Patriots were the best run defense in the league going into the week. And then on a 4th and 10, what would have been a 60-yard field goal, maybe 59-yard field goal. Dave Canales decides to punt. And what happens on that punt? They return it for a touchdown. The exact same thing happens the next drive. We make it into their territory, punt again. I don't think that was that punt was returned for like 60 yards as well. The
Mm-hmm.
exact same thing happens the next drive. We make it across midfield, punt again.
No,
And or
we
no,
we
we
had
missed
the
the
missed
field
field
goal.
goal attempt.
That's
Yeah.
right. They end up driving down and scoring again. And it ends up being 28-6 at the half. And yeah, that's the story. Even if we scored, let's say 40 points, we still lose because they score 42. And it all stems back to, I think, coaching at all three levels. Number one, you can't be afraid to go get yards in opponent territory. Reminds me of last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home, where Dave Canales did something similar on multiple fourth and we'll call it 1-3s on Tampa Bay's side of the field. He opts for field goal attempts. And what happened on most of those? Eddie Pinero misses them. It's instant karma. And then in this game, the first time he does it, it is instant karma as they return the punt and score. They lead 7-6 as we missed the extra point. Our phenom kicker, by the way, missed the extra point, a field goal, and didn't do any of the knuckleballs on kickoffs like we were able to do against the Falcons. So special teams was horrible in terms of kicking and coverage. Offense was horrible in terms of play calling and being afraid. And then on the defensive side of the ball, we were just gashed everywhere. Drake May, who we talked about being the best QB we faced, I thought he made one really impressive throw over the middle to Stephon Diggs. The rest were not dump offs, but like screens and under the middle or over the middle stuff, underneath stuff that the receivers just added 40 yards of yak to every single time. This was probably Canales' worst game, I would say. Certainly one of Evero's worst. I don't know if I can call it the worst. He has quite a few poorly called defensive performances, and special teams was bad as well. Just all around horrible performance.
Yeah, I don't think anybody gets a good grade from this game. And if anything, it's just surprising with the injuries that we have to the defensive line. DJ Wanham and Patrick Jones being out, forcing the younger guys to step up. DJ Johnson completely being lost on so many
He
different
started.
plays.
They started him.
Yeah. No, and like I get it from the standpoint of this is Evero's guy, but again, this is one of those things about like I didn't understand the thought process behind promoting Dan Morgan. Like he was on a 2-15 staff. They made bad personnel decisions and continue to do so this past offseason. And I don't know how much of this was Jadeveon Clowney because he is kind of a mercenary free agent type player that moves states like every single season. So I don't know how much of it he was pushing himself out the door. We trade Adam Thielen. And it's like, how much help would he be? And he's not even seeing targets in Minnesota. So it's like one of those things that it would have been a win-win for both sides. And it's just you keep going down the decisions leading up to the season, what's gone in season. You go back to that 3rd and 10 decision to do a draw play. Why are we running the ball up the middle when literally their strength is in Milton Williams and Christian Barmore, and we have injuries on our interior offensive line? It's not like strength against strength. This is like our weakness against their strength. Like this doesn't make any sense. And this is a continued pattern that the team constantly gets out coached. Nothing looks easy. And yes, some of it goes on all the players across the team. And Derek Brown was kind of alluding to that. Like, hey, if you want to be a player-led team, then it doesn't matter what's called. But it's just there's no talent there. And every time that we do have a couple players that do make impact plays, it's like they're not even on the team or they get hurt. And then it's like we're back to square one. And it always feels like the same cycle. So I don't know if anything changes this week against a poor Miami team, but what happened in New England where you fall down and get in a 28-6 hole and then show no life in the second half? It wasn't like the Cardinals game where you showed a little bit of fight, you were able to get back in the game and give yourself a chance. I mean, going from that Cardinals game when we fell down into a hole, we had scored 54 unanswered points going into this game, including that first drive, and it just all came apart at the seams. And so moving forward, it's like, yeah, definitely a lot has to get focused on kind of game management and how you're going to call the offense. But I don't see a lot of hope moving forward until we get some of the guys back. Like Jalen Coker's got to get back in the lineup. I'd at least prefer a guy like Xavier Legette, the practice squad guys that are kind of getting boosted up because of all the injuries to David Moore and Hunter Renfro. I keep getting lost at what and kind of alluding to what Dave Canales was saying, like what is the identity of this team? Because they talk about how they want to run the ball, but Chuba Hubbard's not really been as featured as he was last year. And then from a passing the ball standpoint, you get a couple of plays to like T Mac, and that seems to be about it.
Yeah, how do you not know who the team is? Like this is year two. You mentioned the Chuba Hubbard split kind of with Rico Dowdle, and I understand giving Dowdle carries. He's a very good running back. He got over 1,000 yards in a pretty poor Dallas situation last year, but it's almost like they take like complete drives separate from each other. Like Chuba has his like we'll call it first, second, and third drives, and then it's Dowdle for an entire drive. Like they don't mix and match anything. There's been very few 21 or 22 personnel plays to start the year, which would probably be cool since we have a lot of running backs and tight ends that are able to be featured. And we have, what, 3 healthy receivers right now. So that would have been a creative wrinkle to throw in there. But again, that wasn't thrown in there. I don't know. Another thing, like this offense lacks explosion as well. And somebody that they drafted in the 6th round, Jimmy Horn, yet to see the field. He's been inactive all 4 weeks. I think they're going to have to play him this week out of necessity, just all the injuries that the Panthers have at the position, excuse me. Another thing as well, the offensive line depth was kind of lauded since everybody was brought back, all 9 players or all 10 players, whatever it was. They were getting fried pretty consistently by 3-man rushes in this game. And I think Ike Ekwonu did his part. Like he like held his own, but you can't hold somebody for 4 or 5 seconds, right? I thought he played well. I thought Moten, more or less, but that interior was getting pretty consistently beaten by Milton Williams throughout the game, who could have been a Panther had we upped our wallet, but I guess the Patriots wanted to pay more. I don't know. Derek Brown said we have to be a player led team. We have to perform no matter what. It's hard for you to make like, if you want to compare it to basketball. It's hard for you to make shots in basketball if the coaches are telling you, "All right, we're going to draw up a pick and roll 40 feet away from the basket, and that's where you're going to shoot from." Like that's how it feels sometimes in this game. I just don't understand. There are easy buttons to use. Like we can use a lot of motion to identify. T Mac is getting guarded like prime Calvin Johnson. Maybe we can move him before the snap to get some of the stuff off of him. I don't know because they were like after what was it David Moore went down and then the other South Carolina guy went down. His name is escaping me at the moment. They were double stacked on T Mac every single play. So like, what did you expect was gonna? He's very good. He's also a rookie that can't out muscle two corners at once. You know.
Well, it goes back to the schematic principle of like, why aren't you moving him around? Like, you see that he's getting all this attention as a boundary wide receiver. Like, you got to move him in, have a tight end play out there, force them to play their hand a little bit more, and maybe give you an avenue to target a tertiary receiver or find a swing pass to a running back if the first read isn't there with T Mac. And it's just, it doesn't seem like there's any of that creativity from the coaching standpoint. And then, yeah, you look at the personnel and it's just, it isn't what it needs to be. And like Bryce Young, as much as like you kind of were alluding to, the offensive line wasn't the best, it wasn't the worst. I saw a lot of offensive lines like the Chargers on Sunday, the Bengals last night. And obviously, I've had my opinions about quarterbacks and their responsibility when it comes to sacks. But this offensive line was holding their own for the most part. Like he had about average time to throw the ball. It's just the issue is those wide receivers weren't getting open. And that's where I think it goes back to a schematic issue. Is like the people that you're rolling out there are doing their part. It's just they're not giving a part to play effectively. And that does ultimately go back on coaching. I mean, this is the 12th worst performance going back to 2011 if you're just looking at net EPA on the day. And then the last, I think, 2018 going to now, 23 of the 30 worst performances have been during the David Tepper era. Like this is just like it's horrid. It doesn't matter if it's Matt Rule, it doesn't matter if it's Frank Reich, it doesn't matter if Dates Canales. Like these guys cannot get this group to function at a way that we saw Steve Wilkes, Ron Rivera, John Fox do. I mean, this is like going back to when we hired Dave Canales. I was an advocate for Joe Hortez and Mike McDonald out of Baltimore because that would have been a culture. And this whole like we're soul searching and trying to still figure out who we are. Like this is why hiring one guy with one play calling year of experience is a bad idea. He doesn't know who he is. He's still on a journey to discover what works and what doesn't. And now you're throwing him at the head gig, and he's bitten off too much, more than he can chew. And it's unfortunate. It's just the way that the card and the hand has been dealt. And it doesn't matter if it's hiring a college coach, a retread, a guy with limited experience, it hasn't worked. And so we got to find something else that will. And I don't know if that's Brad Idzik calling calls. I don't know if that's promoting Ejiro Evero as the interim, but something's got to give sooner or later.
Yeah, and the culture that they have preached at least is that they want to be stubborn running the ball, and maybe that doesn't mean running on 3rd and 10, but it does mean get the guy that you paid during the season last year more involved in Chuba Hubbard. I think that's been one of the issues to start the year is that he's been much better than Dowdle when they both been on the field. Chuba's averaging like double his yards per carry and more in terms of yards per reception. So hopefully they can get Hubbard more involved. I know you don't want to run him into the ground, but like we're talking about, throw some pony personnel out there. Put both of them on the field at the same time. It doesn't have to be one or the other. That was one of the
Or
things
just on
last
fourth
year.
down. That's the only time we see him is like fourth down to
Yeah,
do some like funky stuff. But it's like, why not do that on second and third down where you could get like a mismatch on a linebacker? But you
or
just don't
even
see
on
it.
first down. First down, you have all your plays available, which is like even like and also last year it was more of the same too. It was okay, Miles Sanders go on third downs. Like I don't agree with that either. But there has to be a new wrinkle. It can't just be all right. We got T Mac now. He can save us in the receiving game, and he's done his part. He's been our leading receiver all 4 games. But certain we'll call them seasoned or tenured coaches or coaches that have been around football before will start to realize that and say, this freakazoid receiver who's really, really good is their only good receiver right now. Let's double him with a guy like Christian Gonzalez, who we both agree at least top 15 corner, and then somebody over top of them, it's going to be tough. We play the Dolphins this week, and thankfully they don't have somebody of that caliber in terms of corner, in terms of coverage, but they have enough guys on that back end that I think can collaborate and work together. Like have a corner and then Minka Fitzpatrick over top, who, by the way, recovered a fumble last night on Monday Night Football. And I wanted to get your opinion as we kind of shift into Miami here. What were your thoughts on those jerseys? Because they debuted their what are they called? The rivalry jerseys. I think it's a far cry from how good the Cardinals were, but I wasn't. I thought they were better than what I anticipated.
I think and the Falcons should take notes because like yeah, the pinstripe down the side when you do like a black jersey is cool, but some of just like the highlighting with the Dolphins color palette on the black jerseys were really cool. It was something that I thought was very fitting for a night game in Miami. It gave it a kind of cool vibe, and it'd be interesting to see teams that lean to or like lighter colors having a black uniform like that, and maybe teams that are a little bit darker, like the Falcons, when they went to their all white unis it looked a little bit clean. And I know I'm talking about a division rival, but I think the Saints, it goes true for them when they've gone to their all whites, when they have like the darker, like black and gold as mainly their color palette. It's a good change of pace when you're looking at teams across the NFL. And I think it's the same for the Panthers. For the longest time, we wore our whites and our light blues, and it wouldn't be the blacks until like later into the year, and it'd be with silver pants. But now we're doing black pants with black shirts and mixing up kind of those combos. So just seeing that across the league is very refreshing. And so in the case of the Dolphins, I liked it. But I don't know if there was something that caught your eye in particular with their jerseys, because guys, again, like you said, this is a series that they're doing across the NFL.
Yeah, I thought the Cardinals ones last Thursday were much better. Like the cream sand color and the red, I thought worked very well. Almost forgot last thing I wanted to say about the Patriots' performance, and this is probably the worst part to me. Two things. Number one, Marcus Jones's punt return yardage is now their highest in franchise history in a game, 167 punt return yards. That's despicable. And number two, what makes this performance even worse to me is that there were no turnovers. I'm not saying Bryce played particularly well. I thought he missed a couple throws there. The receivers also dropped quite a few. It seems like a pattern at this point. But there were no turnovers, and they were still able to churn this out, which is just incredibly embarrassing. But did you have anything else before we wanted to preview the Miami game, another AFC East team?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we had talked about like key factors going into this week, and I like that you brought that up there at the end. Is like the turnovers, and there weren't any. It was just that we were punting the ball. We got in a lot of 3-and-out situations, and just poor management at the end of half, top of the second half. I mean, they were able to go up 35-6 right into the early third quarter. Like it was over. It was like, okay, maybe there's a chance. We get a touchdown. We cut it to like 28-14. Maybe there's a shot. We come back. No, it was done and over. Drake May had himself a day. The homage to Cam Newton was fun to see as a Charlotte native. Seeing a guy like that hit the professional league, play for a team that Cam Newton played for, and then to do that as a Charlotte kid, I love that for
It
Drake
was
May.
it
But
was tasteful. Like I don't know why people were mad about it. Like it wasn't an insult to Cam whatsoever.
no, it wasn't the Colin Kaepernick. It wasn't he was going up against Cam Newton, and this was
Or
a
the Von Miller
disrespect.
in the Super Bowl,
Yeah,
similar thing there. Yeah, like you know, they're also like destroying us too. So what are you gonna do, right? We just lost by. It ended up being 42-13, but it
well
felt
at
like
that
much
point,
worse.
yes, because the punt return felt awful, but they were only up 13-6 when he ran in. So they ended up
Right.
going up a score there. But to go into Sunday's matchup against Miami, I think the saving grace is the Patriots defense has been playing relatively well. The Dolphins, on the other hand, the only defense that is worse from an EPA per play standpoint are the Dallas Cowboys this year. So you want to talk about saving grace, getting back on track, maybe finding an identity on offense. I think it's going to come against a pretty bad defense, but I don't know if Dave Canales is up to the task and exploiting it.
Another saving grace. You mentioned Bryce Young's like road and home records at the start. This one's at home, which you should always play better at home, but Panthers should be better on the road. It's inconceivable. But you mentioned their defense as well. They're the worst rushing defense in the league right now, and that includes their performance on Monday night. Patriots were the best the Dolphins are not very good. Hopefully, this can be, you know what our identity is? Running the ball, kind of like what Steve Wilkes did almost 3 years ago now. Use Chuba Hubbard. He still hasn't had a rushing touchdown on the year. Both of his touchdowns are
Oh,
receiving
receiving, yeah.
touchdowns.
It's like he's
So
gotten into the end zone, but yeah, it hasn't been on
yeah,
the
in
ground.
the first two games, and then we ran Dowdle in. Bryce Young has a rushing one, or maybe two rushing ones as well. But we need to get Chuba Hubbard involved. That's key number one for me because while we'll get to the Dolphins' offense in a second, their defense is the sticking point. Last night against the New York Jets, they did have three takeaways, but those were their first three takeaways all season, and two were it was a strip sack, a fumble by Braylon Allen, and then they also forced a fumble on the halftime opening kickoff. So their defense forced two takeaways, two turnovers. I think if we can play like competent, not complimentary. Hopefully, we play complementary football. But if we can be competent on offense and not turn the ball over and lean on the run, I think this might be a bit bold to say, but I think we should have an easy time on offense against this defense.
I agree with that sentiment as well. I will say from a rushing standpoint, they are a little bit better than their pass defense. So I think this is an element where you want Jalen Coker back in the lineup. I don't know if JT Sanders is going to be back this week, but if you can get some of those starters back in the lineup and you can pass the ball or at least have the threat to pass, and then with if they drop a like say a guy out of the box and you have a lighter box, that's where you hand it off to Chuba Hubbard. You lean into that run game, you lean into the advantage there in the numbers. But that's where it's you have to allow the defense to be reactionary and then just take what they give you. I mean, this is not a good unit and you cannot allow them to capitalize on any of your mistakes. I think that's the one thing that I said this about the Patriots, but if we end up generating turnovers just like the Jets did on Monday Night Football, this could be a very long day to where you're putting this same pressure that we just saw from the fan base back on this team. And we saw how unhappy David Tepper was. The fact that there hasn't been a change announced this week leads me to believe that, hey, you just won 30 to zip. Obviously, you just had a belt to ass moment. You got a rebound. If there is no rebound, something is going to give, I think, at this point, because we are too far into this experiment for it to keep looking like this. Somebody brought up pretty much the average point differential when a team loses. There's only four coaches since the 2002 merger that have a worse average point differential in a loss. And two of them were interim Raider head coaches. So, like, this is not good company that Dave Canales is keeping. And this wasn't even something that happened during the Frank Reich era. We were abysmal in offense during the Frank Reich era, but we were at least functional and able to keep things in a one possession kind of score game to where there was always a shot. There, if we get blown out early, there's never a shot. There is no coming back. It is just over and done with. And I thought we were changing that at the end of last year, past the bye, and that's what's got to change because we can't keep doing this in September and October. You aren't going to be able to build a winning franchise playing like this.
I agree with everything you're saying. While Mike Vrabel probably isn't the sharpest coach when it comes to taking advantage of things, Mike McDaniel certainly is. Mike McDaniel is a lot of things. I don't think he's a great head coach, but he is a good play caller. But he knows advantages with his offense. And if Ejiro Vero's not on his P's and Q's, if DJ Johnson is seeing significant snaps, then he's going to find the wrinkle. What I will say is about that Miami offense, they lose Tyreek Hill, probably their best playmaker still, for the season last night. He had a dislocated knee is the fear, and that has a bunch of different ligament tears and stuff within his knee. He's not going to be playing, but they still have weapons on that offense. Jalen Waddle is a very fast player. Devon Achane is impressive, and for some reason, Darren Waller last night had a 2 touchdown performance. So if they're able to make everything work, you know how bad we are against tight ends. If Darren Waller is fresh and contributing now, I think there will be wrinkles that Mike McDaniel can find in this defense.
I think it's going to come down to whether or not we have our starting edge rushers. Because if we cannot contain the run, if Devon Achane is going to get loose with some of their inside outside zone running schemes, it's going to be a very long day because of exactly like you said. Darren Waller and Jalen Waddle will be schemed open. And so you're going to have to stop the run, keep everything in front of you. And There is a time and place where you put the number two corner on the team's best wide receiver, and then you shadow that wide receiver and cornerback matchup with a safety. But I think in this instance, the best thing to do is just have JC Horn shadow Jalen Waddle. There are no other wide receivers on this roster that like make me worried or concerned. And so if you have that one-on-one matchup, you're able to kind of bracket a Darren Waller, maybe even put Mike Jackson on Darren Waller. You talk about a big physical matchup. That's a matchup that I think would probably work compared to putting a linebacker or safety on him. Maybe Mo Rig gets a little bit of action against Darren Waller, but that's where I think you have to win those matchups. You have to keep the run contained, and you can't let some of these playmakers on the outside make plays. And if you can do that, this is a very winnable game. But you're going to have to cut down on the turnovers on the offensive side. You're going to have to just chip away and take whatever the defense gives you. You are not at a point offensively to where you just dictate terms. This is where you have a light box, hand it off. If they're playing the run, then air it out. Because I think when Bryce Young is in a situation where he's in empty playing man coverage, he can get the ball where it needs to be. But that's about getting the playmakers back on offense, getting your playmakers back on defense, stopping the run. You have a chance. But that's a lot to ask for this team that is just coming off an ass beating. And so do you think they have a shot on Sunday, or are these just like wishes that we're kind of manufacturing here on a Tuesday?
I do think the Panthers have a shot. If Tyreek Hill were playing, my opinion would change pretty significantly because even with JC Horn playing, I don't think
He
he
changes the
matches up
numbers. Yeah.
particularly well again. There's no corner ever that has matched up particularly well with Tyreek Hill. If this is it for him because he is older now, one of the most dynamic receivers to have ever played the game. We talked about that over the summer when we did our receiver Mount Rushmore. But I think with his loss, there are things we can take advantage of. For me, it's going to be the key is can we apply pressure to Tua Tagovailoa? Their O line is terrible. It always is, right? But Tua mitigates that by getting the ball out very, very quickly. If our O line, which by the way has the fewest sacks, the lowest pressure rate, or excuse me, our defensive line, fewest sacks, lowest pressure rate.
I
We
was about to say
somehow,
our offensive line's not that good.
yeah, the the we somehow got a sack on Drake May, but it was like he was running and like he got pushed out of bounds. That like those kind of sacks. We have two on the year. My key is that we're going to need at least two this week. We're going to need to manufacture some stuff in the backfield, keep to on his toes, so to speak. And that's like my key to win. I do think we have a chance being at home with the crowd in front of us, but this is not as free of a game that I would have envisioned it was 2 weeks ago after we dismantled the Atlanta Falcons. I know Tua Tagovailoa is not a great quarterback, especially at this point of his career, but I think he's much better than Michael Penix at identifying quickly and like getting the ball instantly. Like if Waddle like Drake London and Darnell Mooney were open throughout that game. If he sees Waddle open, the ball's out, and it's like he's not going to wait. He's not going to throw it to a check down to a guy that's being blanketed. Stuff's going to happen. So I think we have to be much more prepared and aware on defense of that threat.
Yes. He's very quick at getting the ball out. I think that's where people go like, hey, you're predetermining where you're going with your read. You're processing things fast. But I mean, this is a guy that was able to pull off the win last night at home on a short week. You are on the road. It will come down to whether or not we can generate pressure. I think that is a good point that you bring up. This isn't a good offensive line, but if Tua ends up having time to throw, this could be a very long day because he's not necessarily someone who I'll say will throw a ton of interceptions, but who knows? Evero may be able to draw up a game plan where he's able to disguise a lot of things and drop people into spaces that otherwise Tua was not expecting. And that is, I think, where you can generate maybe a game-changing play or two. But it is sad that a team that has invested so much along the defensive line has 2 sacks on the year, while Brian Burns has 5 on the year. And they go back to that trade because we got a second round pick that we ended up flipping for a future second and Jonathan Brooks. That future second's Nick scored. So we have a running back on IR and a developmental kind of edge situation where he's good in the run, but he's not affecting the pass game. It's like this is what you gave up instead of just paying Brian Burns. And it's frustrating from a fan standpoint. Anybody that's going to say, well, we could have fixed the interior offensive line, you don't know ball because we spent all the money that would have been on Burns on all these players that have not worked out on defense. And it's a slap in the face. You had talent on your team and you keep sending it out the door, and then you're shocked when the cupboards are bare. And it's just at this point, you get what you deserve. And so Brian Burns leading the league in sacks, it just feels very much like what's going on with the New York Giants, where it's like any time that talent leaves the building, they do excellently wherever they go. Xavier McKinney, Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones. Like we are just like that. And it's frustrating. It is frustrating to be a team that can draft and somewhat produce talent, and then as soon as they leave, they're superstars. And I don't know about you, but I'm done with that. And so when we have star talent in the building, keep it. Don't let it leave. And that needs to be something that we need to change moving forward.
I agree. The one Brian Burns is playing phenomenal right now, and the thing I'll say, not to the Panthers' credit, but the Giants' front as a whole is disgusting. Like Dexter Lawrence is
Yeah.
the best nose tackle. Abdul
The
Carter, he
interception
hasn't.
on Sunday was insane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt so bad that he wasn't able to return it.
How's
That Justin Herbert got him there at the end at the like the 3 yard line, but he's incredible. Kayvon Thibodeau is playing very well. And Abdul Carter, he's not getting the sacks, but he's a phenomenal pressure getter as well. He's been the best rookie by far, in my opinion. Abdul Carter has so he's in a good situation. Brian Burns is, but he's still able to produce. We've spent so many resources on the defensive front for them to produce this poorly. And even with Derek Brown back, we should still be getting after the quarterback. So Tua is a very sackable QB. I'll say that. Like he's not an escape artist, but he mitigates it by throwing quick. We have to get pressure on him. That's my key to the game. I don't know if I'm ready to make a prediction until I see the status of guys like Jalen Coker, Xavier Legette. I would love even Xavier Legette to be back for this game compared to how open, quote, open Renfro was getting. And what was it? Yeah, it was Bryson Tremaine and T Mac at that point. You David or Xavier Legette is at least big and fast enough that you have to put a defender on him instead of being able to double and triple stack all your options. So I would love to have him back. Maybe get him involved in the play that they gave David Moore at the start of the game. I don't know, but I don't know if I'm going to make a prediction yet. What I will say about this game, my perfect take in this game is that Darren Waller is going to get another one. I don't want that to happen, but if you look at how we guarded tight ends in the Patriots game, they weren't routing us up or anything. They were just catching the ball and then running it. Like Shaw Smith Wade had an opportunity to, was it Hunter Henry or Austin Hooper? I don't remember, to push one of them out of bounds, but he tried to force a fumble. And so I think it was Hunter Henry. He just walked in to the end zone. Tight ends have been able to do that to us all year. Kyle Pitts would have been able to if Michael Penix could have hit him in the open field. So I think Waller is going to score another one and continue his renaissance, if you can say that.
So you brought up a point about like Tua taking sacks, and obviously the big ones come to mind because of like how prone he is to concussions and the CTE stuff that's going
Which,
on with his.
by the way, somebody hit him super late on a slide in the Monday game. I don't know if you saw it.
Okay, so if you go back and watch that, when he starts his slide, the two defenders are there. Like where, like
It was
he
still
literally
late.
no, he slides into the defender's shins. Like where's the defender supposed to go?
See that he's sliding and
Okay,
don't
yeah.
dive at him.
I,
It wasn't as bad as Aziz Al Shire,
yeah,
but it
no,
was
and
still
that's
like it was
for
still
it being a
yeah,
contact sport, and I think it being a late slide. To me, it wasn't like a true hit to the head. It was guys falling on him. You did see the one elbow on the one
fair
guy that
enough.
fell. And so that's where it's like, I'm not going to call that dirty by whatever means because it is a physical sport. The Aziz Al Shire, that's ridiculous. Regardless, Tua, for the most part, he has actually had a significantly super low sack rate during his career. He's very much like Justin Herbert, like that in that class. Joe Burrow is the quarterback that takes a lot more unnecessary sacks and hits. And so the way Tua has been able to mitigate his poor offensive line is just getting the ball out quick. So I think they're going to be able to find Devon Achan on checkdowns. They're going to be able to find openings in the middle of the field for him to get Darren Waller and Jalen Waddle involved. And I don't think he takes a single sack this game. And I think that's just a reflection on how this defensive line has been built. And I think that's a testimony to why Dan Morgan and Dave Canales should not be in the building at the end of this year. I am done with trying this whole, hey, I worked in the finance industry and I had people working for me for 25 years. That's great. Dan Morgan is probably top 50 at what he does, but you need to be top 16 at what you do to be competent. And that is where I think the discrepancy is here. And I need Dave Tepper to realize that he needs to find people that know what they're doing and then just walk away. And it seemed like he was doing a little bit better on the walking away with these two, but you have to find somebody competent in those roles in order to walk away from it. So that's what I want to see moving forward. But I think a reflection of just how this roster has been built and just how much we have to kind of deal with and work with, we're not going to generate hardly any pressure, and we're not going to have a single sack on Tua this Sunday.
Well, I hope you're wrong because we're going to need one or two of them. One of the things I would point to in that direction is our blitz rate is about 20th in the league this year. We're going to need to bring some blitzers. One of the things that made me hopeful about Coach Evero's defense in the latter half of last year, even though we were giving up big performances, he found wrinkles in some of the games to put pressure on quarterbacks. I'm thinking about the Eagles game, the Cardinals game toward the end of the year, even the Chiefs game. We got 5 sacks on Mahomes, and probably 4 of those were self-inflicted because Mahomes likes to continue plays, but they were able to make it work. Maybe it's just the case of us not having all of our edge rushers. I don't know. Everyone needs to find something this week because if DJ Johnson's out there for 60% of the snaps again, it's already a loss. Like, that's how bad of a player he is. I don't want to say like all NFL players are the best in the world at what they do, but you have to compare them to each other. Like you're saying with Dan Morgan, the general manager. Last point I'll make about Tepper is if you continue to fire people early, you won't get the competent candidates. So they're gonna Canales and Morgan are gonna make it to the end of the season, I think, as they
Yeah.
should. But yeah, we need to see a change pretty quick.
And that's more what if nothing changes throughout 2025, it's more like things have to change in 2026. And it's more just like when you blow it up, actually do all the interviews. How about you wait to interview coordinators and front office people that are on playoff teams? Like I know that's like a mind-blowing thing, but like that might actually help you. So that's my 2 cents. I think this whole episode has just really been a rant and frustration and things that we've expressed already over the past several years. So it's just it seems frustrating that you just keep beating the same dead horse, and we really don't like. I don't know what else there is to talk about. Like it seems like that's just it's the elephant in the room. I mean, David Tepper walking across with Dan Morgan scouting like that's going to be on memes for the next few months. We're probably going to get some more like I don't know theatrics, but like I feel like there's going to be some more drama in the coming weeks, and part of me is excited for it, and then the other part of me is like kind of like almost numb to it because like what's going to change?
Yeah, the antagonist in you is excited for it. I can tell, but hopefully next week we'll be back talking about a win because I believe the Cowboys game in 2 weeks is also at home. But
I'm not feeling good about
they've
that
had our
one.
number. We've hosted them like the last 4 years, which is weird. It's almost like a new home game for us. But hopefully this week is a win, so we can talk about something good next Tuesday. Until then, you can find us on Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your content. And again, a hopeful keep pounding.